Hi everybody, thank you for joining us for the workshop today. We are going to be doing a paper wings workshop. It's basically a combination of mindfulness, drawing and origami. Hopefully you've been enjoying all the other things that Nottstopping Festival has had to offer. I know there's been some really cool workshops going on, a lot of great music and performances and things. Hopefully you've been checking that out. How many of you saw yesterday's workshops with Amelia and Bryony? We had from City Arts, we had a paper poetry workshop, and we also had a paper puppet workshop. They were really fun, really cool. Drop a comment, let us know how you found those. Today, what we're going to start off with is doing the decorating paper portion, and then we're going to move on to the paper folding. So as you can see in front of me here, I have a whole host of my little butterfly families that I've been making in preparation. You can see we have 3 different kinds. Let me separate those out for you. 1, 2, 3. So these are the 3 different types we're going to be making. I'm going to let the others sort of fly off the edge of the table here, and we'll come back to them later. Okay. First one we're going to go for today is going to be this lovely rounded wing butterfly, and then we're going to go for this more angular one, and then this kind of fan fold sort of butterfly here. Let's start by getting all of our materials ready. We're going to want scissors and paper. Those are very, very important. Optional is also a ruler. If you've got one, that's great. If you've not, don't worry. Going to help you figure out how to carry on without. And you also need dry materials like pens, pencils, and felt tips and things like that. So you need at least 3 pieces of paper, and we're going to start by just creating some squares so that we can begin decorating. If you don't have a ruler, you can fold an A4 piece of paper up to get a square out of it. If you've got a ruler, just go ahead and measure. I would recommend that you make a square about 15 by 15 centimeters. If you can't do that, you want to fold it up into a triangle. Now, if you're working with really big paper, like A3 paper, I would say that you probably want to fold that in half before you make your squares, because you don't want them to be really, really big. Of course, the technique will work with paper of any size, but because we're going to be spending some time decorating it, you might run out of time if you've got very large pieces of paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this in half to get a smaller bit of paper. I'm going to cut down this center fold that we've created here with my scissors. And the way that we're going to achieve a square is by taking one corner of our paper and bringing it down to match up with this bottom edge here. And then we're going to fold that, and we've created a triangle here. Make sure this line here is flush with the bottom of your paper, and then you're just going to cut off the excess. There we go. And if you unfold this triangle, you'll now see that you have more or less perfect square. It's probably not going to be exactly perfect. It really won't matter if you're a couple millimeters out. We're just going for as precise as we can, and don't worry if it's not exactly the right measurement. Now, if you don't like that there's a crease here and you prefer to work with totally flat paper, I would make one square first, and then you can hold this on top of your other paper and just use that as a guide to cut some more squares. You can use any paper for this. It works best with thinner paper. If you have very, very thick paper, trying to fold it is going to become quite difficult. I have a variety of papers here. I've got some scraps. This is actually the inside of an envelope. This is a piece of notebook paper that I had, and this is just some plain A4 paper of regular thickness. I have some pre-decorated ones here as examples. So these are the kind of things that we're going to be doing. Hopefully by now you've all got 3 pieces of paper, and we can begin. We're going to go through 3 different techniques for decorating your paper. For the first one, we're going to be doing some expressive mark making techniques. So take your first piece of paper, it can be any of them. I'm going to go with this one here, the one that was the inside of an envelope, and I'm going to take one mark making tool We're going to begin getting some designs on here. Now you can straight away join in and start doing this yourself at the same time that I'm doing it. So what do we mean by mark making? It's any way to get marks onto your paper. Something that I do a lot is kind of rhythmic mark making. So I'll put a bit of music on in the background and I'll kind of zone out and just start creating different designs and patterns on my paper, filling up the space on the page. And it is very relaxing. So this is quite a linear design. When I say linear, I mean we're just kind of using lots of straight lines. Quite easy to do, really. You can mix it up and you can do some kind of more wavy lines, maybe. And we're getting some really random patterns and designs on here. Now you might want to do some sort of cross hatching down one side. And you can thicken that up and add more weight to that area by going the opposite direction. Very scratchy, kind of erratic kind of marks that we're making here. You could do some circles. Kind of just like keep adding circles within circles. As I say, you should also be doing this on your paper now because we're going to be doing everything in this workshop at the same time. We're not going to have sort of, okay, you've got 5 minutes to do this. We're just going to keep doing things together at the same time. I'm going to try and go at a reasonable pace. If you notice that maybe my page is a lot more fuller than yours, you might want to do your best to try and catch up. But don't worry if you're falling behind, it's okay. It can be hard and daunting when you've got a plain piece of paper in front of you to fill up, I understand. Okay, lovely. I'm also going to do some sort of lines and dots. I really like this one. It reminds me sometimes like of Morse code. I wonder if any of you know Morse code or what this kind of might translate to. Not sure, don't know. There is something, one of the ones that I tend to gravitate to is this sort of design. I like to do this to fill in gaps where I'm doing kind of graffiti style stuff. Reminds me of that kind of corrugated metal that you have, you know, that you see like in gone the wrong direction, see in garages. Something that I also like about this kind of technique where you're just getting different textures and patterns onto your page is you can't really go wrong. I made a little mistake here, but you wouldn't know because there's no kind of specific obvious design that we're going with. We're just having fun taking it wherever it wants to take us and carrying on like that. So I'm going to fill in this area here with a few more circles. Fill some of them in. You'll notice that I don't have a lot of negative space here. When I say negative space, I mean parts of the page that I've not covered with the marks or any of the mark making. It is quite a busy design, and that will translate nicely into a butterfly because when you're using this for origami, you never quite know which parts are going to end up being visible or not. For example, you can see here, I've done lots of different colours on my paper first, just kind of like random, and then I didn't know which ones would show up as butterfly wings and which one didn't. So I quite like that about this technique of decorating paper and then using it for origami, because you never quite know what you're going to end up with. Okie dokie. Right then, hopefully we've all had a good go at some expressive mark making. We're going to now move on to our second decoration technique, which is going to sort of be this one here that we're going to do. Okay, let me grab my next piece of paper. I think I'm going to use this notebook paper for this. This, again, is a very mindful technique because it's something very repetitive. So you're doing the same motions with your hand again and again for a few minutes, and that fills up your page. I think I'm going to choose a few colours and just go with a couple of colours. So let's have yellow, pink and orange. So again, you can use any dry materials for this. You might have something like oil pastels or something like that. crayons, you can use those too. I'm using these colouring pencils. Pop a comment on, let me know what you're using. We're going to start with this lovely orange, and I'm going to just go any random space on the page, and I'm going to start colouring in some lines, and I'm going to do a gradient of colour. When I say gradient, I mean I'm starting really darker and saturated at one end, and then applying less and less pressure going down until I get to the other end where you're applying more pressure. This is sort of creating a bit of a 3D effect, because we've got the shadows, and the light and dark values is what you use when you're trying to make something look 3D. So you see how we've got lovely saturated colour fading into these sort of lighter colours here. I'm going to do, this is more of a red than an orange actually, I've noticed. Not sure how that's showing up on yours. And then I'm just going to go in a totally different direction and do the same thing. So colouring in, applying lots of pressure, that means I'm pressing down quite hardly. My table's probably going to wobble a lot while I'm doing this, so apologies if that's affecting your view. As I'm doing this, please pick up your pencils. You should be joining in with me at the same time. We're going to do all of this together. Nice and full of colour. This is a really simple and easy way to fill up a page. We're just going to go straight over here. Oh, broken a pencil, no problem. I'm going to go straight over here with this. You could do this in kind of gradients of circles. You could choose not to do gradients at all and just do kind of blocks of heavy colour. That would be fine as well, kind of like a patchwork kind of design. But I like this because we end up with absolutely no negative space, a really colourful page. So carrying on with that, what colour shall we go with next? What colours do you think I should go for, guys? Let me know in the comments. Let's have this lovely teal green. This is one of my favourites actually. Let's go diagonal now. Yeah, that's a very bright, vibrant colour. So some of these are actually watercolour pencils, and some of them are just regular pencils. I'm just using whatever I've got to hand, whatever I've got in the house. I fully encourage you guys to do the same. Anything that you've got, you should be able to do this with. I think colouring in was something that we all did a lot when we were younger, something that we found a nice, easy and fun way to pass the time, and we don't necessarily do it so much now. There was a rise in kind of adult colouring books, and by that I mean the ones with the little intricate designs that are designed for people who already know how to use drawing implements and can fill in those intricate designs and things. And they were, you know, marketed towards mindfulness, and I really do think they were a good idea. So this is something that I like to do quite often. You know, you can put your effort and time into doing well thought out pieces, and that's great, and that can really scratch that creative itch. But it's also really nice, I think, to kind of zone out sometimes and just have a little bit of relaxed, no pressure making that's not meant to be. Whoops, my paper's trying to get away from me here. Okay, it's going to take a few more minutes just to finish this up, so carry on. You might want to put a little bit of music on in the background while you're doing this, rather than just listening to my voice the whole time. Okay, let's go with some nice pink. I did think I was only going to stick to a few colours, but I've actually gone really, really rainbow here, really colourful. Has anybody put any of the rainbows in their windows? There was a lot of people making rainbow things and displaying them, so that, you know, we could all, when we go out for our daily exercise, we can walk down the streets and count how many rainbows we had. I thought that was a really, really nice idea. If you do end up doing this kind of colourful rainbow butterfly, maybe you could display that in your window. If you do send a picture in, I'd love to see that. That would be really cool. But it's not a bad idea, I think. So I've done some smaller ones, and I'm going to start just doing some larger areas. Yeah. I think having kind of the gradient is a really quick way to get a page looking really detailed and interesting. Okay. Kind of looks a little 3D, you see, it looks like, and you can't tell if it's something that's going in or going up. What colours have we not used? Let's go back and have a little bit more yellow over here. So we're only going to be working on this for another 1 to 2 minutes, and then we're going to move on to the next one. Whilst we're having a few moments finishing our colouring, I want to do a little shout out to my dad, whose birthday it is today. Happy birthday, Dad. His name's Russell, if you want to wish him a happy birthday. Unfortunately, because of lockdown, we can't be together, but you should be watching right now. This is a fun way of sort of being together. So happy birthday to you. I hope it's going well. I can't wait to see what you've created. Oh, lovely, nice dark blue here. So the contrasting colours look really nice together. Contrasting colours are colours on the opposite end of the colour spectrum. So, you know, like blues and yellows, because blue is a very cool toned colour, and yellow is kind of warm. Also purple and yellow, they're a really nice combination. I use that a lot. And then, you know, pink and green are also opposite. Oh, Saphira says happy birthday, Russell. That's really nice. Thank you, Saphira. Okay. Oops. And you can just keep going in different directions. You'll notice that I ever so slightly ripped my page there, and that's okay. That's not too much of a problem. It's because we're working with thin paper and I'm putting quite a lot of pressure on. But that rip's not going to be a problem. If you've slightly damaged your paper, do not panic. It will absolutely be fine. We can totally work with it. And it's not going to ruin the design. If you're at the edge and you're finding that your paper's not playing along with you, you can just go in one direction. So just kind of towards the edge rather than coming back. And that will minimize your possibility of damaging it any further. So last bit's finishing up, please, guys, because we're moving on in a moment. I'm going to get another green tone in here. I'm really liking greens at the minute. I'm going to have another tone of green on here. All these random directions are making it look kind of more interesting. Okay, last ones. What should we do for the last ones? Shall we have, I think we should have a light pink down here. Lovely. I really like this pink colour. Very nice. And then in our last corner, so last 30 seconds, guys. Don't worry if you've not totally filled your page. It's going to be fine, but we are going to move on. And if you find that, you know, the next one doesn't take you very long, you can come back to this one. And that's fine. That's okay. Some of you might have been finished a couple of minutes ago. You might be very, very quick, a lot quicker than me. Everybody works at a different pace, and that's fine. Okay, so you see what we have here is this lovely, colourful, rainbowy piece of paper, and that's going to be our second piece of origami paper that we can use. So we're going to move on to our third and final design. I'm going to use this plain white piece of paper here, and I'm going to use felt tips again for this one. Okay, where are my felt tips? So the design we're going to do on this one is something called Zentangles. Zentangles are a really fun way of doing more structured doodling, kind of random drawing, which people really underestimate the value of. I love a good doodle. I think it's something that helps you get your thoughts out and helps you relax. The first step towards doing Zentangles is separating your paper into multiple large sections. I'm actually going to draw around a jar to get some big circles on my paper. And then I'm going to continue by just separating it with some wavy lines. Okay, and then one more, just there. So you can see I have some large sections of paper now. I've only used about 5 lines. If I were you, I wouldn't make lots and lots of tiny sections, because what we're going to do is fill in each different new zone that we've created with a different pattern. And it could be with a different colour as well. That would be quite nice. So it is similar to the first thing we did, in that we're combining lots of different patterns and textures. But this is a more structured way of doing it. Russell says very pretty, thank you. I'm assuming that's the piece of paper that we just did. Yeah, okay, brilliant. So I'm going to start with this section here, and I'm going to fill this section using the same colour and the same technique. And I think I'm probably just going to do some sort of scales. You know how you might draw fish scales? Did anybody draw mermaids when they were growing up? I drew loads of mermaids. Again, pick up your pens, pencils, whatever you're using, and do this at the same time as me. Decide how you want your first section to be filled and just go for it. Now, the reason that I've chosen sort of colouring pencils and felt tips is because they are quick drying, dry materials. So if I were to use something like ink, I'd have to wait a long time for them to dry before I could do my paper folding. You can do this with any kind of dry material, like I said, oil pastels, etc. But if you're using, you know, soft pastels, which are a very dry, easily blendable kind of chalky kind of material, that would be fine. But you could end up spending a lot of time doing this. I'll be folding the paper, you're going to fold down and smudge it. So that's something to consider if you're doing a design that you're then going to use for origami. Try and make sure you're not using something that could easily smudge and get kind of get altered by the process of doing the folding. So there's one bit full up. For the next bit, you see how I have a very small little section here? Rather than filling it with a design, I'm just going to totally block it out with this kind of reddish burgundy-ish colour. So we have one full section like that. You can absolutely do that, especially if you have any little bits. That's something cool that you can do. So we've done something kind of soft and rounded here. Let's go for a more spiky design for this next one. I quite like the way this is going in this kind of horizontal direction here. So I'm going to go with that. I'm going to follow it. And I'm just going to do these zigzag wavy lines in the same direction, all the way from one end to the other end. There we go, nearly finished. I'm trying not to cross lines because I want to keep them separate, but I think it's not too much of a problem if we do. I'm going to try and stick to a colour scheme with this one, and it's going to be this kind of like warm purple and pink/red colour scheme. So let's go straight into this section here, and let's fill that with some great big bubbles. A couple of really big ones, and then we'll fill it in with some smaller ones like that. So kind of like what it would look like if you were underwater, or maybe this looks more like pebbles to you. I'm not sure, what do you think? You can take inspiration from the natural world. You can fill an entire one with leaves, vines, rocks, pebbles, whatever. I think what I would like to do is fill in all the gaps with the red, because I want to have a balanced drawing. When I say balanced, I want to make sure that there's kind of like equal weight on different sides and sections of the paper. And I feel like I can see a lot of white paper right now, so I'm going to try and balance that out by filling these little gaps in with colour. I've chosen to fill the gaps in because it will be quicker than filling in the actual bubbles, just because we're doing a workshop and time is a factor, but you can do whatever you want, whatever you fancy. Okay. What shall I do for the next one? Please feel free to give me ideas. Let me know what you think would look nice on the different sections. Let's have kind of a simple stripy design here. Something that you'll notice is that I'm using this tip of my tool for detailed parts and then the side for other parts. So I'm making full use of the different ways that I can use my tools. See, we've got thinner lines here and fatter lines here. Have a look at the thing that you're using. How can you use it to get the most variety of line work, variety of marks and textures out of it? What can you do? There we go, that looks nice as well. Okay, next one. Let's do some continuous line on this one. I really like continuous line. It's one of my favourite mindful techniques, and it can absolutely go any way and create any shape. I'm going to start kind of over here, and I'm just going to go around and around in a continuous circle until I've reached the edges. So this side part here is getting really, really thick with that pink colour because I've gone over it so many times. There we go. It's quite nice, I quite like that. It's a little bit trippy. It's like we've got a staircase and then one of those kind of caves that go down, down, down. Okay. Next one. I'm glad we went with this colour scheme. These aren't really contrasting colours. They're kind of very close to each other and they complement each other. Some people would say they're clashing colours, but I've always really loved pink and red together. I don't know why. I just think they look really cool. Let's fill this little tiny triangle that I accidentally created there up with some pink. And then let's go here and do another design. What can we do? Probably some kind of like cross hatching. Cross hatching is, we did it a bit earlier. It's when you go in one direction with lots of kind of little lines and then you kind of go in the other direction. So it makes this kind of cross-hatched checkered kind of design like that. And I think we should have maybe some little dots like a galactic design here. Okay. So actually I quite like the way that this section here directly across from this section here is going to have a similar design but almost opposite. So I've got white circles here with a red background, and in this one I'm going to have red circles with a white background. I quite like that. I like the balance of that. I think that's really nice. Random little dots that we're adding. This is something you really don't have to think about too much. Just go for it. See what you create. I didn't plan any of this design beforehand. I mean, I knew I was going to be doing Zentangles, but didn't think about it. Just kind of letting it happen. You may already be familiar with the drawing technique of Zentangles if you have been checking out the Young Producers Instagram, because we have done, we've been putting daily posts up since lockdown about with different kind of creative challenges and creative ideas for people to follow if they wanted to. We're winding that down a little bit more, and the posts aren't necessarily going to be daily, but there's already a whole load of things up there. So if you wanted to check that out and get some ideas of what you can do, we are on Instagram at youngproducers_cityarts. Okay, I have 2 sections left. I think I want purple clouds. The way I'm going to create my clouds is doing some circles all together, rather than just kind of like drawing out a cloud shape. I'm going to do, just imagine it's like a collection of little balls, like little cotton balls. I'm going to do that. We've got a purple sky. Who needs white clouds when you can have purple clouds, right? I think that's nice. Okay, And for the last one, what are we going to do for this last one? I feel like we have lines kind of going in all different directions. Maybe we should just add some little diagonal lines with kind of dots interspersed in between them. So we have popped up a link to the Young Producers Instagram if you want to have a look on there. It's on the comment section now. I do encourage you to try it out. You know, we've got a lot of cool things on there already. Different techniques, ways to stay creative and stay together, and you can kind of make them and then post them back with our hashtags, Young Producers Nottingham, isolation creation challenge and that sort of thing, because it's all about staying together now, isn't it, and doing what we can to keep connected. Okie dokie. So sorry I didn't give you a warning there when we were nearly finished, but hopefully you're nearly at the end. You can have a minute to finish up while I gather all of my examples together and start talking through the selection process of how we're going to select each different page. Okay. This is one of my favourite ones that I did actually incidentally. So we've got some clouds, and then in the background I've done kind of a linear design with some dots interspersed, and I think that's really pretty. These are nice in their own right. They could go on the wall, they could go in the window, they could go anywhere you like. But we're going to use them for origami, and that just means that the thing you've made is even more unique, even more personalized. If you're like me, you might have a lot of unfinished drawings and paintings and things in your sketchbook or just lying around the house. And if I know that I'm never ever going to finish something, I'm never going to get back to it, what I can do is take that and make some kind of origami flower or something, or butterfly out of it. And then it's not just a piece of art that's been abandoned, it's actually being used for something. It's given new life, and I think that's really, really cool. Okay, hopefully you're finished with that now. I'm going to bring back the butterflies that we're going to be tackling. My screen's looking very busy right now because we've got a lot of designs going on. This is the first one that we're going to be making together, this rounded wing butterfly. You can see if I turn it over that there are no white spaces on the butterfly. So you can't see any of the underside of the page. On this one, for example, you can see two different sides of the page. So if you've done any designs that have bled through to the other side, like this one, you see that? Because I used felt tip, bled through to the other side. I wouldn't necessarily use this piece of paper to make this butterfly, okay, because I would see that bled through design here. That's just something to consider. I will remind you again when we get to that. So for the first butterfly, for this one, I'm going to choose, I think, this piece of paper here, the Zentangles one. So let's move everything out of the way and we'll get folding. Some of these folds you might find a little bit difficult. If you do and you live with another person, I highly encourage you to just ask them, let them know you might need a little bit of help. If you've got a ruler, you can use your ruler to help deepen the creases down. Okay, so we're going to start by putting our pattern side down, facing away from us on the table. Okay, and we're going to begin by making some folds. We're going to make one fold across the center by taking the bottom corner, pressing it up to the top corner, and then we're going to fold down our page like this and press really well along the crease. Open that out, turn it, and do the same again on the opposite axis. So we're taking the other corner, folding it up like this and pressing those creases down really well. If you open that up, you can now see that you have got some lines going from each diagonal of the page over to each other. Now we're going to flip our paper around so that we're looking at our pattern side, and we're going to do some more folds, but horizontally. So we're folding it up to make a big rectangle rather than a triangle. So we're going to take these bottom corners, bring them up to the top corners, make sure they're all lined up, and then we're going to fold really well along those creases. Open that back up, turn, do the same again. So you've turned it 90 degrees, you're going to take the bottom corners up to meet the top corners, and we're going to fold. Okay, so if I unfold that now, what you can see is we've got lines going across the side, across through the middle, both directions, and then across vertically from each corner to each corner. It might be trying to pop up a little bit. Can you see how mine's sort of like got this pointed bit popping up off my table? The next thing that we're going to do is a little bit of a tricky fold, so try and watch closely. We're going to have our paper facing us with the pattern side up, and we're going to take our fingers to this fold here, and we're going to push into the middle. We're going to push those together, and as we do that, we can pinch our paper together to create a triangle. I'm going to do that again for you. Pattern side up. Because of the creases and the folds that we've made, it's going to want to push together. We're going to take our fingers, squish this together until it meets, and then pinch the paper closed, and we have this triangle here. Okay. At this point, if you've got some scissors, which you should have, you can round off these corners. You don't have to. If you want a butterfly with pointed wings, you can just leave them pointed. I like how it's rounded, and I am going to round off the corners. One corner, and then the other corner. Lovely. And we have this kind of look just here. Don't know which way I want it up. Okay. Have your triangle facing you with the pointed side down, and we're going to start sort of creating the wings. So I'm going to take the top layer of this rounded corner. You can see there's actually two layers. I'm taking just the top layer, and I'm folding that down so that this side meets this side here. Just folding that down just like that. Okay, we've gone from here down to there. It doesn't quite reach the middle. That's okay. That's sort of what we want. Same on the other side, just taking the top section, and we're going to fold it down just like that, making sure that this edge is flush with the bottom edge as it was. Okay, you can see there's a little gap in between. That's okay, that's not a problem. So these are the top wings, these are the bottom wings. I'm going to just pick up my butterfly off the table now to show you this next part. What we're going to do is take this bottom corner, and we're going to fold it underneath the butterfly and out the top. Okay, so I'm taking the bottom corner. I'm actually just using my little fingers here to fold it underneath. Can you see how I'm doing that? And you're going to fold it in a way that bends the paper, and you should be able to see the point sticking out. Okay, this is a little tricky, so I'm just going to show you again. We're taking this bottom section here, and we are folding it up underneath the butterfly. I'm now going to flip over my butterfly and show you the bottom side. You can see that these parts are being pulled up. This is creating our 3D effect. You can fold these little parts down here and fiddle around with these edges if you want them to lay flatter, but it will be now at a sort of angle because of that fold that you've made. Lastly, what we're going to do is just pinch this little this triangle sticking up here. We're just going to fold it onto the top. So this is now what we have. Turning that over again, you can see the top side of the butterfly with this little bit folded in. Just going to fold it in half now to separate those wings a bit, and we have this wonderful 3D butterfly. I'm going to zoom in a little bit because, whoops, it's flying away from me, and then just refocus my camera. So see how we've got this butterfly now with all of these different sections on the wing? Isn't that cool? I think it's pretty cool. This is what you can see underneath. Lovely. That's our first one done. Hopefully you're all there too. I'm just going to give you 30 seconds to kind of catch up if you need to. I'm going to just bend my wings a little bit until I've got it looking how I want it to look. How did you find that, guys? Are you finding it easy? Let me know. Okay. So let's move on to our second butterfly now. Let's put this one over to the side. Come on, little friend. There we go. And our second butterfly we're going to work on now is this one. I have a few versions of this one. I really like it. It's one of my favourites. One of the reasons that it's my favourite is because it has a practical use as well as being lovely and decorative. If I turn it over, you can see that there's this kind of pouch. This is a bookmark. You can put this on your book as a page marker, which I think is pretty cool. So let's once again get our paper that we've decorated and make our selection. If you remember, we said that we don't want to use one that has the design that bleeds through to the other side. That's not ideal for this butterfly. So we're going to use something that doesn't feature that. I'm going to use this because I haven't made a butterfly out of this one yet, and it's nice and clean on the other side, nice and white except that bit, but that's my fault. I think I must have dipped it in a little bit of paint, but that's what my life is. Paint gets everywhere. I don't know about you. Amelia says, yay, she has a butterfly. Fantastic. Congratulations. You're about to have two. So for this butterfly, we're actually going to trim our square down because you need a piece of paper that is 2/3 long and 3/3 long and 2/3 thick. What I mean by that is we're going to trim it down, trim 1/3 of the paper off. If you have a ruler, measure it. This is 15 centimeters, so I would have 10 centimeters on this side and 15 on this side. If you don't have a ruler, fold it like you would a leaflet. And you kind of created those 3 sections. See how I did that? Just fold it over and over itself. We've got 3 sections. Snip one of those off. So you're having a long, thin rectangle rather than, I'm going to snip this one off. Rather than a square, you've got a long, thin rectangle. Most origami works with a square piece of paper. This one works with this. And we're going to start with the pattern side down on our table because I want the pattern side to be the most visible part of the butterfly on the purple bit. Okay, everybody hopefully has got their piece of paper trimmed down now and is ready to get going. So we're going to begin by folding our triangle into a square. So we're going to take the bottom 2 corners and bring them up to the top 2 corners. Line that up nicely. Fold down like that, pressing down every time because it's really important that our creases are well defined. And then I'm going to kind of turn it around so that the bottom part closest to me is open. And I'm going to fold it in half the other way, like we're closing a book. Okay, just like that. So we folded it twice now. This part people can find a little bit tricky. Make sure again that the part facing you is this open part here. What we're going to do is hold down one side of it, and we're going to take our finger and wiggle it between the pages. We're going between the pages here until our fingertip reaches the top, right at the top at the base on our table, and we're going to bring it open. So our piece of paper is now open and we're creating this triangle. So we're going to push it down flat on the table, and what we want is the middle of this triangle here to be in line with this fold of paper. Okay, so we've put our finger in and we've pressed it down. We're now going to fold our triangle in half and do the same on the other side of our piece of paper. So if you didn't quite get that, watch this next bit carefully. I'm holding down one side of my paper and I'm taking my finger and inserting it in between these folds here. I'm wiggling the tip of my finger all the way down to the bottom, up at the top of the triangle, and then I'm going to open it out as if it's a triangle and press down. Okay, so we should all have that. Press down your triangle really, really well. And this should be what you're looking at. We now need to fold this back bit here. You see how we have one width of paper here and then 3 here, 1, 2, 3. We're going to just bring the back section over and push that together. So now we're looking at this, a triangle with two little legs here. Some of you might be looking at this. You might be looking at this kind of pointy thing. If you are, all you need to do, bring that bit over here and the back over here until you're looking at a triangle with two little legs. Okay. Okie dokie. Next part is we're going to take this corner in the middle and we're going to bring it and fold it over here. Our aim is not to bring it over all the way up there, nor is it to make this pointed. We're going to keep this little right angle intact and we're just going to fold this up here so it's overlapping. See how that's now overlapping that, but we still have this pointed corner here. We're going to keep that. Same on the other side. I'm folding it up here a little bit, pressing it down. This corner still intact. We haven't made a point. Excuse me, we haven't made that into a point. Okay, this is what you should be looking at now. This is one of the trickier folds. Again, if you find that you're struggling with it, ask somebody else in your household. Maybe they can come and give you a hand with this. We're going to do an internal fold. So I am picking up again and holding it with my hand here. We're going to fold these back. Hopefully you've pressed down nice and well because we want to be able to see these lines. We're going to go inside the fold again with our fingers, wiggling it in, and we're going to bring this inside on itself. Just going to fiddle with my focus for a minute, guys, because I'm not sure how well you can see me. I'm going to start that again. So we're looking at these folds that we've created. Open it up. Go inside with your fingers, and we're just going to bring this point down and pinch it closed. So we've now hidden that fold inside. See how that's happened? Let's do that again. Sorry if I'm going too slow for some of you, but this is one of the trickiest ones. So we're just going to go through it at a nice slow pace. I've gone in between these layers and I'm just going to bring this inside with my finger and create an internal fold. If you press your edges down really well, this part should be okay for you. Shouldn't struggle too much. You will have made your lives easier by doing some good folds. Okay, so now this is what we're looking at. Mine's a little bit wonky, but that's not a problem. Just going to sort that out. Not a problem if you're a little wonky like me. A lot of things that I do end up a little bit wonky. Okay. Now the next part is how we're going to create the top and bottom wings. Have your paper facing you so that your triangle is pointing down towards you and these visible white sections are over here at the top. We're just going to take the top corner, the first layer of this top corner, and bring it down. I'm not lining it up with the middle. I'm having it just off center here, like that. And then I'm going to press that down really, really well. Again, on the other side, taking the very top layer, not both layers, just the top one, bringing it down just off center, pressing down really well all around these new edges that I've made, and we have our butterfly. Okay, there is a little mark here on mine. That's okay, it can be a beauty mark. I often have little smudges and things. Nothing in my house is pristine. A lot of creatives will tell you that they're the same. So we have our second butterfly here. Hopefully you're all looking at something very similar, although yours will have your own designs on. If I flip it up again, you can see that we have this little pocket. I think I've got a book. I've got a book on the floor. So let's open this up and we can demonstrate. Pop it on the page like that. We have a very cute little bookmark that just hides away there. Fantastic. Okay, so I'll just give you a moment while you're finishing up. Okay. We're 2/3 of the way there. We're just going to do our last one. Catherine seems to have just joined us and is liking things. Oh, she says. Yep, that's our second one. Catherine, I'm not sure if you've seen our first one here, but we're on our last one. So grab your paper and get ready. Last one we're going to do is this. or something that looks similar to this. I actually have a couple versions. My favourite, I think, is this one. Okay, right then. For this one, you're going to need that little bit of string. It can be ribbon, it can be string, it can be yarn, it can be whatever you want. You don't need a lot of it, just a little bit. So for that one, I'm going to use my last piece of paper. I'm going to use this. And what we've got to do for this is we have to cut our paper in half. So take your square, fold it up, and make a line. If you've got a ruler, measure it out with your ruler, and you can get nice and precise. If you don't, fold it up like I'm doing, and it'll work just as well. Okay. And we're going to cut along that line that we've created. Okay. I'm just going to give you guys a minute to get to the same stage as me. We're going to start with our top butterfly wings. So each half of this is the top butterfly wings, this is the bottom butterfly wings. Doesn't matter which way around you're doing it. We're going to start with our pattern side away from us once again, and we're going to make a long fold along the horizontal line of our paper. So bringing those bottom corners up to meet the top corners. Okay, folding it like that. Again, define that crease really well. Open it up, and we've got a line here. Now what we're going to do is create points on the end of each side of this paper. So I'm going to take this corner, I'm going to bring it down, and I'm lining this edge up with this middle fold that I've created. That's why we needed to do this, so that we know where the middle is, because we're going to meet that. Same on the bottom corner. Okay, you can see mine aren't exactly lined up, but that is not a problem. It's totally fine. We have a nice defined point here, and that's what matters. Same on the other side, top corner, bring it down, make sure that line is all the way onto the middle. This one again. Okay, so we now have a kind of pointed rectangle. Okay, we're going to fold that in half so that we have like, what's it called? Is it a rhombus? I should have researched this. I thought it was a rhombus. It's like a little platform that we've got. And we're going to do a fan fold to create the volume of this butterfly. It's sometimes called a concertina fold or an accordion fold. It will be something that you're probably familiar with. If you're not, pay careful attention. It's basically a lot of backwards and forwards folding. And you need to make sure that every time you fold it backwards and forwards, you're doing it to the same width. So I've brought this bit down. I'm now going to bring it up. And then I'm going to bring it down again. And I'm making sure that I'm lining my folds up with the last part. Okay, so we have the same width all the way along. I have a tiny bit of extra. I'm just going to fold that up so that it's neat. If I tilt this, you can see that it creates kind of a zigzag fold. Okay, that's what we've done. We're going to flip it over and we're going to do the same on the other side, starting by bringing it down and making sure we're doing it to the same width as the previous side. First down, then up, then down, then up again. Okay, just like that. Now you have this kind of weird little shape. Josh Frank says he thinks it's a trapezium. I think that's correct, Josh. It is probably a trapezium, and we've just ruined it and made it into this weird pointy thing. But this is now a lovely kind of zigzaggy thing here. These are our top wings. The only last thing we're going to do with these is bend it in half so that we find the midpoint. So I'm bending that in half, making sure it's equal length on both sides. And there we have the top of our wings. The next section, now that you're used to the accordion fold, is probably going to be really, really quick. We're going to take, we're actually, the only thing we need to be mindful of is making sure that it's the same width again, because it's going to go directly on the bottom of this. So I'm going to hold this here for reference while I start my accordion fold on the next bit. It's probably about a centimetre, well, it's probably just under a centimetre thickness. I think that looks about right. What do you guys think? Yeah? So we're going to do that and then flip it over, fold it the other way, And we're just going to do that all the way up the length of it, backwards and forwards until we've reached the other side. Just trying to make sure we are keeping a consistent width through the whole time. So which design did you guys choose for which butterfly? Which one is your Zentangle butterfly? And which one is your colour blocking? Obviously this one is my mark making butterfly, and I hadn't done one that was a mark making butterfly before. I'd always used plain paper and the colour block paper for it. Okay, that's all finished. Flip that over and we have this. We need to do the same thing again, which is to bend it in half. I'm going to just bring it together with my hands and I'm going to bend it in half like that and press that nicely well together. And you can see we've got these two sections here. They look vaguely like a butterfly. They will look more like a butterfly when we tie it together. I'm going to cut a small piece of string. Doesn't have to be too long. If you want to hang this up on your window or something, cut a nice long piece of string, because why not? You could use the same piece of string you tie it together to actually display it. I'm going to have my string on my table. I'm actually going to flip it over so that the knot that I make is going to be on the back. And we're just tying around this bent part here. This is where they're going to be like stuck together. If you are tying this together with a nice piece of ribbon, or even like if all you had was a pipe cleaner, what you can do is make the tip of the ribbon or pipe cleaner be these little antennae that the butterfly have. That would be pretty cool. Hello, Tim. Tim is here. He's joined us. Nice to have you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Let's flip this over now. And what we're going to do to finish the look of this butterfly is to open out our folds so that we can see our lovely, lovely pattern. If you have a glue stick, you might want to glue between the top and bottom of the wings like this to keep it together in this nice kind of shape here. I'm going to trim off my excess because they're looking a little bit messy on mine. There we go. There we are. And then we have our finished butterfly. I quite like that one. It's very black and white. It's like a little zebra butterfly. Let's collect together all the ones that we've made all together here. We now have a lovely little family of butterflies. I think they've turned out really nicely. I'm really happy with them. I like the variety. I like that every time we do it, it has a different outcome, and that they're all very, very unique, never the same as each other. Hopefully you've all enjoyed that. Hopefully you've all got 3 butterflies. We can actually go to one of our participants now, I think, if they're ready, to see if we can see what they've created. So let's have Alma join us and see. Hello, Alma.
Hello, you're right.
Yeah, look at that. That lovely bookmark butterfly. It looks wonderful.
Behind.
I like it. Oh, and there's the more 3D one. That's pretty cool. Fantastic. Was that your Zentangles one or your mark making one?
Yeah, that was Zentangles.
Nice.
As well.
Yeah, beautiful. The bottom of it is good as well.
And then and
then that one. Yeah, that's cool. Are you going to hang it up?
Yeah, I like that one. I think I'll put it on the window. I think that's really pretty. That the rainbow.
Yeah, yeah, fabulous. Oh, well, thank you so much for taking part. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Thank you very much, Meridith.
No problem. Okay, bye-bye. Okay, fabulous. Thank you to Alma and everybody else who joined in. Hope you've had a really, really good time. Make sure you check out everything else that's available in the rest of the Nottstopping Festival. Like I said, there's some really cool music. There's been some yoga and stuff. There are still things to see. Thank you so much to Nottstopping and everybody in that team that's made this possible, because I think this has been really, really cool for us all to have things to do to keep us entertained and stay together. And I've really enjoyed doing this workshop. I know Bryony and Amelia yesterday really enjoyed it as well. So big thank you to all of everybody who's responsible for that. And cheers for joining us. I've really enjoyed doing this with you guys, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your weekend. So take care.